Hope you're all still awake. Late Night Mega here, and yeah, I haven't come up with a new catchphrase yet. That's okay, because I do still hope you're all awake. Because if you click on this video and fall asleep, well, that'd just be kind of weird. So I guess it does still kind of fit. Do be mindful of the red skeletons. They will do things that aren't nice. I didn't want the map. I wanted Bose to take care of that guy before we flip the switch and get the key. Now, the boomerang is very nice here. We need to go this way. There's the map. So let's show off the map. Now, a discussion that we kind of started in the previous video. I thought I was going to get through the whole discussion in one video and not drag it out between two, and that's discussion of my favorite and least favorite Zelda games. And this room is going to give us plenty of time to talk about just that. So, yeah, I talked about my favorite and what I'd rank the lowest Zelda of all time. Second, so we'll start with second from the bottom, because we're in the tower of talking about other Zelda games. And second from the bottom would be, well, Zelda 2. If you've played the game, I mean, I find it pretty flawed. It's pretty frustrating to play. It's basically a 2D side-scroller Zelda with a very short-range sword, and it's not very enjoyable. I mean, the first couple levels aren't bad, they're tolerable, and then, I don't know, a lot of the enemies in the combat are really difficult to deal with, and overall not enjoyable. After that, working our way up from the bottom, we have the two, I'm just going to throw pots at these guys. I'll demonstrate that they throw bones. See, that's not nice. They throw things back at us. The next two, in no particular order, would be Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, the two for the Nintendo DS. I just found it it felt very simple for a Zelda game. You know, because everything was touchscreen, everything was kind of, you know, just tap this and it'll work out for you. And I really didn't like the feel to those games at all. Then, next up on the bottom portion would be Wind Waker. Another one that's beloved by many, but not myself. There's just a few things that really bother me about Wind Waker. I mentioned in my favorite Zelda list that one of the things I really like about the Zelda games is the number of dungeons and going through multiple or many different dungeons, and Wind Waker was kind of light on the dungeons again, kind of like Majora's Mask, and also the sailing I found to be very annoying in that game, very tedious. I mean, I understand for plot reasons why this blue thing keeps hitting me, but I understand why the world was flooded the way that it was, and that makes sense. I liked Wind Waker from a plot perspective. I loved it from a plot perspective. But just sailing from one island to the next is just... You spend so much time just sailing around in that game, and that's not enjoyable. I want to get to where I want to go, and I want to get there in, you know, a decent amount of time. And the sailing just was not a fun experience for me, and you spend a lot of time doing that. And this is the room where we can potentially get the big treasure that has the pearl we need to not turn into a rabbit. So that's kind of important. And then we also get, this is the compass. We can pinpoint the lair of the dungeon's evil master. I bet it's at the top of this tower. Let's find out. Yeah, who didn't see that coming? Nothing down here, so let's go this way. Fire-breathing guys, you can't hit them with the boomerang. Well, you can, it just won't do anything. So you just gotta get up close with your sword. Same with those guys. Yeah, boomerang doesn't stun them. Don't mind all the cracked walls there. They don't really mean anything. One thing I do want to show off, if you go down this hole, I believe it's this hole, you end up falling through many, many floors. I remember discovering this when I was a kid, and I was like, no, I'm going all the way back, and oh, hey, fairies. So you get fairies, and this warp takes you right back to the room we were in. So how convenient. This guy is not convenient. All of those pots there are filled with hearts, because the boss room is in the next floor. However, I am not ready for that. So yeah, Wind Waker, not the most enjoyable for me. After that would be, I'd put Skyward Sword next. So yeah, Skyward Sword I'm ranking above Wind Waker. And Skyward Sword I had a lot of problems with, but I did enjoy the dungeons in that game. I can't take that away from it. And I need to flip the switch guy before I go to the boss. Just in case I end up falling down half a dozen times and need to refill my health. I want that to be available. Oh, and I picked up that Moon Pearl thing, as I'm just now commentating on that several minutes later. Yeah, Skyward Sword, I liked the dungeons. I liked how the dungeons used the items. A few things that I did not like about Skyward Sword. The combat, the motion controls, they were really awkward to get used to. And honestly, I didn't really get used to it until like almost at the end of the game. But and I found certain battles very frustrating because of the controls. However, what I learned, and it took a long time to learn, which I attribute that to some bad design, is that I was basically over swinging the sword, and you don't really need to do that. Just like I don't really need to be fighting these guys here. And I don't need to be taking all this damage before going into the boss, so yeah. But we'll demonstrate that these pots are full of hearts. Those hearts will not come back if we fall down, so let's not fall down. And yeah, so we can fall down and go back to the previous floor. Basically what that means is we'd have to start this boss fight all over. You can bounce off the guy's head, which I don't recommend doing that. But you want to hit him in the tail. So yeah, Skyward Sword, once I did get the hang of the motion controls, there were certain boss fights that became really enjoyable, like the fights with Giraham. I think I'm pronouncing that right. That's what I'm calling him. And but Giraham as the boss of basically the first dungeon of the game, way too much of a difficulty spike there. Very, very poor design from a difficulty standpoint. But oh, hey. This guy's gonna start speeding up here. Oh, there we go. You'll slow down, right? You're not slowing down. Well, that slowed you down. And, yeah, Giraham not very reasonable, and I really disliked all of the battles with the Imprison. Those were things I really disliked. But once I got hang of the controls as far as the sword fighting goes, you know, I actually came to respect the battles with Girahim, and I found it to be a reasonably good challenge. The other main thing I really disliked about Skyward Sword is the repetition in their use of the overworld areas. And they basically turn the overworld areas into basically a dungeon, where you're basically solving puzzles and moving platforms and stuff just to try, and this is the path that takes us back. This sign tells us, yes, thank you, is that you're basically solving puzzles just to move through the overworld. And I always had this feeling of, okay, I just got to the dungeon, but I felt like I just went through a dungeon to get to the dungeon, because the overworld basically acts like a dungeon. I really dislike that. The overworld should just be for exploration, for connecting, having a few fun hidden things. Kind of like the overworld of this game, you know? I don't have to solve puzzles to get from here back to the village. Yeah. And then to also reuse the same few areas. Hey, you guys are still cutting the tree down. I said you'd be done after I finished the tower of talking about other Zelda games. And we finished the tower and I'm still talking about other Zelda games. But that's okay. So, yo, hey. Don't ambush me when I'm trying to talk about Skyward Sword. So yeah, and I really disliked, you know, the collecting all the droplet tier things that you need to collect in each of the overworld areas. It was just annoying. It was tedious. You know, just put me in the dungeons and let me battle the guy. Let me battle the bosses. That's what I enjoyed about the game. Everything else, not so much. Where am I even going? Where am I supposed to go? I'm supposed to go to the forest. Yeah, I don't need the village. There's nothing in the village for me. Everything's in the forest. Oh, that's a block we can't lift. So we'll try foresting this way. So yeah, Skyward Sword, though, had more things I liked about it than Wind Waker, which is why I rank that above Wind Waker. Then after that, we get into the games that I like, but, you know, they're not my favorites. They're not in the top 4 that I mentioned in my favorite section. And that would be like the... Oh, hey. That thief person will steal our stuff. Hey, it's the Master Sword. This is it, the Master Sword. Oh, it can't be. Well, fine. I can still throw it at you. Yes, I know. I threw a sword at you. I'm leaving. So basically we have to wander our way through here until we get to this area. I actually found this really quickly. And since we have all 3 pendants, well, there's scribble text here, so we'll use our book. The hero's triumph on Cataclysm's eve wins 3 symbols of virtue. The Master Sword he retrieves, keeping the knight's line true. And we have 3 pendants. And that lets us pull out the Master Sword, and now we have the level 2 powered sword. And it's blue, my favorite color. And we can hear Shasharu Sharara's voice. And, you know, that tower was really short. I remember it being a lot longer of a dungeon than that. Can't believe we got through there in like 10 minutes. And we also have sword beams. When our health is at full, and we launch our sword, it'll launch a spinny, wavy beam. And it's awesome. Link, help, the soldiers are coming to the sanctuary. Aye! Well, you're gonna have to hold that thought, because, yeah, just fend them off for a while. I'm sure you can manage.